Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Alyssa. Today I have got 3 delicious vegan recipes for you, all of which are great for gut health and really nourishing. So we have 2 that are more on like the dinner side of things. They're bulkier meals that you can kind of make for lunch or dinner, or you can meal prep. And then the third is actually my version of bone broth, but it doesn't have bones because it's vegan. It's a mushroom vegan bone broth made in the Instant Pot. It is so delicious, has a lot of really great flavor, a ton of healing properties, and I personally just like to make a big batch of it in the beginning of the week and keep it in my fridge, and then I just heat it up and drink it almost like a tea. It's like a savory tea. It's so good. But you could also just use it as a regular broth in soups or stews or anything like that. So really recommend you guys try that one. The other 2, like I said, are more bulky kind of savory meals. The first is a kimchi fried quinoa, and the second is a KITCHARI. And if you don't know what KITCHARI is, it's an Ayurvedic traditional recipe. That's a really hard word for me to say, but it's a recipe that has been used in Ayurvedic cooking for thousands of years. It's really delicious. It has tons of amazing spices, lots of vegetables, tons of protein, fiber, so good. And like I said, it can be meal prepped. So as always, I've linked all of the recipes down in the description box below for you, so you can get those over on my blog. Don't forget to subscribe if you are not yet part of our community. Before you go, hit that red button. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. We're gonna start with our quinoa fried rice. And the first thing we're gonna do is finely chop up 1 bunch of green onions or scallions. Just thinly slice them and then set them aside. And we'll move on to our kimchi. So just finely chop up about 1/2 cup of kimchi. And if you are following a vegan diet, just make sure that you look at the ingredient list and make sure that your kimchi is vegan. And then we can set that aside and move on to the actual cooking. So this recipe actually only uses 5 ingredients, so easy. First thing we're gonna do is add our toasted sesame oil into a pan. Bring that up to a sizzling temperature, and you can add in your cooked quinoa. From there, you'll add in the kimchi, 1/2 of the green onions, as well as a tablespoon of wheat-free or gluten-free tamari. You could also use soy sauce. And then we're just going to basically fry this or pan sear it. And we're just gonna cook it until it gets a little bit golden brown. Everything's nice and fragrant and incorporated. And the rice, or the quinoa in this case, has started to get a little bit crispy. Once you get to that point, you can just remove it from the heat and serve it up. I like to serve this as a side dish. It also makes a really great base for things like sauteed vegetables. You could also just bulk it up by adding a protein like edamame or tofu or beans if you wanted. And it's also actually really great with eggs if you like to eat eggs, or you could do another protein of choice. But either way, so easy and so tasty. And I love that it has that gut healing kimchi in it. The next one is our KITCHARI, and the KITCHARI, we start with our spices. So we're using whole spices in this recipe, and we're gonna use some black mustard seeds, fenugreek, fennel seeds, and cumin. And we start by adding coconut oil into a large skillet. This is just a 1-pot meal, which is so awesome. And let the coconut oil just melt. Once it's melted, you're gonna add in your whole spices, and you're basically just going to saute those for about a few minutes until they start to pop and get fragrant. Once you're at that point, you can add in the rest of your spices, which is turmeric, coriander, cumin, ginger, salt, and pepper. And again, we're gonna saute this until all of the spices have a chance to kind of get a little bit toasty. It releases their oils, adds so much flavor, and it really brings out all of the incredible richness of this dish. Once your spices have cooked for a little while, you can add in your chopped up garlic as well as your chopped up shallots. You could also use red onions or regular onions. Saute that for 1 to 2 minutes until the garlic is a little bit fragrant and the onions have started to soften, and you'll add in the rest of your ingredients. The base of this is mung bean dal or golden lentils, and you can just add that in there along with white basmati rice. And then what's great about this recipe is that it's a clean out the fridge type of deal, so you can use any blend of vegetables that you want. Just follow the proportions that are in the recipe, which is linked down below for you. And the ones that I chose today were cauliflower, carrot, and zucchini. Basically, that's what I had on hand, and you can just use whatever you have on hand. And once you have it in there, you can just stir everything together to make sure all of the spices are evenly incorporated, and then we'll move on to adding our liquid. Traditional KITCHARI calls for just using water, but I like to do a blend of water and broth because it adds a little bit more flavor. So I did 4 cups of vegetable broth and 4 cups of water, and then give it a quick stir and let it come to a boil. You'll reduce it down to simmer and cover it, and then just let this baby cook, and it cooks for about 45 minutes to an hour. Once you have it cooked and the rice is cooked, the lentils are cooked, the veggies are cooked, give it a quick stir. Make sure that you remove the bay leaves, which I did add, I forgot to film. So make sure you remove those. And to finish everything off, I love stirring in some greens. You guys know I love sneaking greens in wherever I can. So I just do a couple handfuls of spinach. You could also use kale, chard, or you could just skip this all completely if you don't want to add greens. That's totally fine. But I just stir them in at the end until they are nice and wilted. And then you can just serve it up. This is really it. You can keep it in the fridge for at least a week. It freezes really well. You can serve it with a piece of toast to dip. You could serve it with tortillas. It's traditionally eaten just as it is. If you wanted to add it, make it a little bit more soupy or stewy, you could add in some coconut milk. It's kind of adjustable based on what you like. I like to just finish things off with a little bit of fresh herbs and some red pepper flakes for a little bit of heat. And it's also really nice with some coconut yogurt on top, but that's optional as well. Otherwise, it's just a really easy, delicious, nourishing, hearty, gut healing recipe that I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy. Last up is our mushroom vegan bone broth, and we are going to start by chopping up our vegetables. So we're chopping up 3 large carrots, as well as about 4 to 5 ribs of celery. We're also going to chop up an onion, and I just quarter that. And then we are going to make this in our Instant Pot. I think you could also do it in a slow cooker, but I haven't tested it. I have the instructions for the Instant Pot down below. So you're basically just adding all of those veggies you just chopped into your Instant Pot, along with a couple cloves of garlic that are still in the skin, as well as a can of whole peeled tomatoes. Just make sure that you remove the juice. So I just used the whole tomatoes themselves. Some raw chickpeas. And then the gut healing thing here is seaweed. So we're using some wakame seaweed. And then we're also going to add in some dried shiitake mushrooms and some miso. And once you have everything in there, you're just going to top this with about 8 to 10 cups of water. And you can give it a quick stir if you want to combine everything. Pop on your lid. Make sure that if you are using the Instant Pot that your vent is set to sealed so that it's not releasing any pressure. You can close it, and then you can set your pressure to high pressure for 2 whole hours. If you are going to do this in a slow cooker or a pot, I think that it would take at least 8 to 10 hours in a slow cooker and probably 6 to 7 on the stove. So just FYI. And then if we are doing it in the Instant Pot, once it's done, you can just quick release the pressure, let everything come out, open it up, and give it a quick stir to combine. And what we're actually going to do is drain out all of the solids. So I put a fine mesh strainer over a bowl, and then I line it with cheesecloth. And I just pour the contents of the Instant Pot into that cheesecloth and then just filter out all the broth. So you can either save those ingredients and make it into a soup maybe. I tried doing that and it did not taste very good. Or you could just throw it in your compost. It's really up to you. And in terms of storage, I like to keep these in mason jars. I just keep them in my fridge for about 5 to 6 days. And I drink it warm, like a cup of tea. I usually have 1 cup at a time. This recipe makes about 8 cups, 8 to 10 cups. And it's just so good. It's really kind of nice having something savory that's also warm. I really enjoy it, and I think you guys are gonna like it too. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed those recipes. I can't wait to hear which ones you end up trying. I really think that mushroom bone broth is something that you can incorporate into your everyday routine that's really nourishing for your system, and it just tastes so good. And the KITCHARI, like I said, is a really great clean out your fridge meal, so you can just use whatever vegetables you have on hand, and the spices that are used in that recipe are just awesome. Like, it's so flavorful. I love it. And then, of course, you can't go wrong with fried quinoa. It's basically like fried rice, but a little bit healthier. So I hope you guys enjoyed them. Make sure to share a photo with me on Instagram if you end up making them. You can tag @simplyquinoa or use #simplyquinoa. Otherwise, the recipes are up on the blog like I mentioned. Links are down for you in the description box below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are not yet part of our community. There's a red button right below this video. You can just tap that button and hit subscribe, and that will subscribe you. Otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to be here and spend your time with me. So much appreciated. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!